Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Aaron and you're watching Help Me DIY. Today I am going to install a mini split in the new garage, and I'm going to give you a few reasons why you want to watch this video. There are lots of videos out there. I haven't found one that goes through all of the steps completely on how to install one, how to charge one, etc. I have Mike Todmann, who is coming over to help me out today. He's just a guy that I met through this channel, and he is an HVAC professional, and he is going to give us all of the tips that we need to get this done. I ordered a Pioneer ductless split air conditioner off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. They have several different sizes based on the size of your space. Mine is about 646 square feet. It has 12-foot ceilings, and I'm gonna be installing it on this back wall over here. My TV will eventually be right up there, so above that, I'll be installing the mini split. One of my other awesome new neighbors, Michael, was kind enough to hold this for me in his garage until this day finally came. So before our HVAC guy gets here, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up and we'll show you what's inside. Now, when you order these on Amazon, they come in two boxes. This is the unit that sits on the inside and blows the air out. And this bigger side here has the actual compressor unit that sits outside the garage. Now, when they ship you this from Amazon, they are stacked up on top of each other on a pallet. They just bring a pallet and drop it off for you. When you take them apart, they're not that heavy. You can move them independently. One other thing to consider when you're ordering them is they come in 120 or 240 volt variants. So either one is gonna give you the same cooling and heating effect. The only difference is if you have 220 or 240 or whatever you call it, easily accessible. That's the one that I went with since it was a new build and I can run anything out there. That will just use a little bit less electricity in the long run. They come with this handy remote to control them, and they also have a little chip that you can buy, which I also purchased separately, that you install in this right here, and it will allow Wi-Fi access, so you can use an app on your phone from anywhere to turn it off or on or adjust the temperature. So here's a little wireless module that does that. See me install that thing later. And there are two ways to mount the compressor unit. You can either put it on a pad on the ground, or you can get some mounting brackets and mount it on the wall. So that's what I opted for, a little universal support brackets. And as far as getting electrical there, here is my panel. It is inside the garage. This is a new build, so they actually ran 4 extra lines for me down through this wall and back under the crawl space. So there are wires that I'm going to connect to from the crawl space, which runs behind this wall, and you'll see I'll go out the back wall to be able to run power to the unit outside. All right, this is Mike Todmann. I got him here with me. He is our expert. He's going to be showing me how to do this stuff, and I'm going to put his contact information in the description of this video, so if you get stuck and decide you don't want to do it yourself and you want a professional to do it, you can hit him up. So he's going to talk to us about the first steps that we're gonna do today.
Okay guys, we got our, we're gonna make our penetration to the exterior of the building. So this penetration is gonna be the most critical part of the whole project. So right now we got a 3 5/8 bit. We're gonna penetrate the vinyl from the outside to the inside, and we got a piece of 3-inch conduit. And what you wanna do is when you penetrate your vinyl on the outside, put a bead of caulk around here to keep it weather tight and keep all the critters out. And once your project is done, seal the inside with some type of silicone or whatever you would like to seal it with to keep the critters from getting in your house.
Gotcha.
So that's where we're gonna start.
All right.
So I guess we need to figure out the center of your vinyl. What I like to do is I like to have it butted up against that. And we may only have a sleeve, probably only a piece of 2-inch sleeve. And once we penetrate, I like to put a screw from here to there, just so it doesn't dance around.
Sure, yep.
All right, so I gotta slice that. All right, so we want about that much of it. Because if you have too much, it'll be hard to make the turn and come back up. So let's go about here.
made the first cut in the new shop. Congratulations.
Yeah. All right, man. Now we got to go outside and figure out.
To make it look pretty.
Well, what we want to do is we want to, if we can, be dead on that stud when we penetrate. See, when we penetrate, we want to be, my expectations are kind of high because I want to be in the middle of the vinyl and I want to be on the stud.
Gotcha.
So,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be, but when we penetrate, we got to make sure we're not here. We got to make sure we're not here.
Yeah.
We want to be right there.
Gotcha.
So,
use a stud finder from the outside?
I don't know if we can do it. Let's try.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna measure to the stud that we want to go to, and it was
118 and a half.
118 and a half from the edge of this. So we're gonna go outside and measure, and then I'm gonna bring my trusty little stud finder to try to find that stud.
And hopefully,
Grab this guy.
now let's go up a foot. So it's gonna be here, where we need to be. Right in the center of that. So that would be, it's gonna be right around this neighborhood.
All right, so let's see if our stud finder agrees with our measurements.
My man.
Bam.
All right, hold on one
So that's
second.
our center. Mark that one.
Don't want to mark it with
No
Sharpie.
Sharpies. Trying to get me killed?
Yeah. Okay, that's that.
All right, so we can, let's pull that measure again, make sure that's about our 118 and a half. Measure twice, cut once.
Like I said, this is the critical measurement. That's about it.
All right, that's it.
All right, so is that the edge of the stud?
That's the center of the stud.
That's the center?
Yep.
All right, we want an edge.
So if that's an inch and a half,
So we got to go
stud,
inch
we
and a half that
need
way.
about,
3/4 inch.
so this is right in the center. The whole stud is an inch and a half, so we go 3/4 over.
Okay.
And that should be the edge of it.
We're gonna drill a small, very small pilot hole to make sure we can pull off of that.
Yep. All right, so we got our spot for where we think it's gonna be. So hopefully that bit is long enough to go through. Yeah, and here we are. We're about 1 inch off of the center.
Darn near perfect. You know what I mean?
That's really close.
Yeah, man. But that's why you drill a pallet. So that.
Looks like just under 1.5 inches, so.
1 3/4 to the tip.
Oh, 3/4.
1 3/4 to the tip. So that's 1 1/4. That's a 1/2 inch over. So if we go exactly a 1/2 inch over, we have a perfect penetration.
Okay.
So 1/2 inch over, and that's still gonna be inside our work. All right.
Pilot number 2.
Now let's take this inside. All right, we want this right in the center of that bit.
That's pretty darn close right there. Out with this one.
All right. This is gonna be the gospel. Made it all the way through.
That felt good. Didn't hit a stud. That's a good sign.
Look at that, brother.
Woohoo! That's about as close as it gets right there.
No closer than that. Beautiful. Okay, guys, so
Perfect
we'll put a nail right in that sleeve and come out about, quarter inch or so. Let him silicone around that so it'll be weather sealed. Like I said, once the work's done, you'll caulk the inside of it to keep the bugs out. All right?
I just got a little hole through here so that we can put a screw in it and attach it to the wall.
Inch outside so I can mark it. And we can kind of fake like, probably wouldn't hurt to put my lever on there either. I don't know if I got enough to put a lever on. Yeah, well, I guess you
look
can,
down from the top.
if you can go outside and just let me know when I got a quarter inch out.
Yep. And fire a screw in.
It is. It's level. Well, hold on one second. Look better if I had it. Well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hang it. I can always
Take it down.
and put some insulation and drywall behind it.
Yeah. Let me clean up.
So we took the template and we held it up against the wall where we wanted this to go, and on one stud over here on the left, it is going to line up with this so that these can go into a stud, and on the right, this one was going to miss the stud. So we just put a couple little headers up there. I have some 2x6s cut to about 14¼ inches to fit in that gap. And then I just put some 3-inch deck screws in there to hold them up. So the mounting plate comes already mounted on the back of this thing. So we just have to take it off so we can mount it to the wall. You'll see these little kind of arrow buttons here that indicate this is where you press in. So if you press in on that button, and it will allow this to come loose and it can snap out. And do the same thing down here, but in the middle, mine has a little screw holding the bracket in, so you gotta remove that screw. So before I mount this unit, I'm gonna go ahead and install this little optional wireless module that lets me use my app to start and stop this. It just comes with this right here and a little screw. And you can actually see where this thing is gonna go. There's a little indentation here for it. It's just going to hook in there, and you're gonna screw it to here, and the cable is gonna run into our little box here. I'm going to open the lid. Now this whole board actually slides out. Just gently kind of wiggle it back and forth. Might have to move some cables that are blocking it, but you want to look for, it says the CN16 port. So for example, this one over here is CN3. So mine, if you're looking at the top of the board, is right on the right hand side here next to this little green thing, and mine does say CN16 right here. It's just covered up by that sticker a little bit. So there's only one way that this cable can plug into it. A little clip goes on top. Just snap it all the way in there. Just snug that board back in. I'll run the cable back around here out of the way of everything and just tuck it in where this white wire is already going. So after this thing is seated, I'm just going to tuck this one in the same areas where this other white one is going into the back of the unit. Took our excess out of the way and then attach that screw right there. Now we have Wi-Fi access. So my builder left me a couple spare ones of these that are wired down into the crawl space. So I just pulled one down, one set of them, 12 twos, and ran them into this 20 amp circuit right here, both of them going into the line side, no neutral, so that's gonna be our 220. So I went ahead and got some 16 on center insulation to stick up in there because I want to insulate behind this and put some drywall up to mount all of this stuff on. So now we're just gonna measure a couple 16-inch pieces so that we can attach it to half of a stud to save room on the other side of the stud for the next piece that'll be coming in. So I found some 2 foot by 2 foot patch sheets at Home Depot. So I'm just gonna score these and we will put them up.
Well, I guess I told on myself now. Anybody can break sheetrock like that been around me. You know?
Little baby kung fu chop.
Yeah, not their first rodeo. Oh.
Can you mud it though? That's the question.
No.
That's...
No.
All right, we're not sheetrockers. We're just putting up a couple pieces up here so that we can mount this thing to it. So we can come in and fill around it later. Well, some professionals can come in and fill around it later.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just gonna mount this bracket. We're drilling a pilot hole because we're gonna use a little bit bigger hardware than what they included. Make sure it is level.
And that guy there.
For reference, we're not going to
this guy.
So right here is where we put our header. Make sure we can bite into that. And then our second header's down here. All right, all level and marked up. Now we can drill some pilot holes.
Nice to bite something when you put it in there.
That's right.
We're making this more work for the sheetrock guy.
You'll never see this sheetrock. This will be buried.
He'll dress it. Excellent.
Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere.
We are north of the equator.
So in the back of this, you have a little, in this little white sleeve here is your drain hose, and it comes with a longer one in a box that just snug fits over this. I don't really trust that, so I think we're gonna tape this up some.
Trying to catch the back side of that seam. Cut me some of that off. Sounds like she's driving an M car.
Yeah, she got an X4 M40i.
Yeah. I can tell that exhaust note. That's bad.
Yeah, this stuff is staying on. Now this thing's gonna be behind your wall if you do it like us, and nothing's gonna be pulling on it. So it'll be fine, but now it'll definitely be good.
Little insurance.
Let's let some nitrogen out of here.
little bit of nitrogen, just to keep it dry during shipping and storage. Of course, you gotta let it out when you put it together and while you pour your vacuum. All right, so we'll go through the front. We ought to come out right there. That way you can just pull your wire. Of course, we'll brag after I get this fish tape in it. Not before. Just let the guys know we're probably just gonna fish this so we won't have to fight this wire. I can see it.
In there, straight out the back.
And this is same on both ends.
Yeah, it should be.
Just a little fish pool. Don't do that.
Power of editing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Ta-da. Now we can go ahead and attach that to this. And this is just our 110 power that comes back from the main unit that we're going to put outside to power this unit. And as you can see on the ends, on mine, they're all numbered. So this one is number 1, number 2 over here, 3, and that is our ground. So we have 1, 2, 3, and ground. And so we're just gonna connect the same numbers to the terminals inside and outside. So you can see right there on the terminals, they're labeled 1, 2, and 3, and your ground right there. So for me, black is 3, white is 2, yellow is 1. So just connect all 3 of these.
Always do a tug test when you tighten your terminals.
Make sure they don't go anywhere. Now we can put our little panel back on.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
Twice. But what I do is when I hang it, I mark on the sheetrock where my suction and my discharge, this would be discharge line, this would be suction line. I mark on the wall where these guys are gonna touch so I can make sure to fashion my pipes to these points so when I put the unit back, it'll sit right there. So it makes it a little easier.
okay.
So we'll pre-hang it, mark 2 spots, take it back down, we'll put our pipes to these points, and then when we go to torque it, they're right there.
All right. All right. So we set this up on the top hooks. Don't let it go all the way down on the bottom or it will snap and lock in place on you.
We just want to get a quick rough end to make our penetration in the sheetrock.
All right, is that a 2.5 inch? Is that a 3?
Yep, 3 inch. 3 inch hole. The 3 inch hole will just make it a little easier for refrigeration line mounting, and it won't stress the pipes as we make that short radius turn.
Sure. All right, so now we're taking our refrigeration lines up here.
We got more hole than what we need, but hey, we can always pack it with insulation and not sweat the small stuff. So we got plenty of room to work and push that back so you won't have to insulate as much once you're done. That's gonna work out sweet. All right, that's the discharge line. And this is the suction line.
You just know by the size of the
The diameter of the
pipe.
Because this is a heat pump. In the summertime, this guy would have your cold vapor in it. And in the summertime, this guy's gonna have your warm liquid in it. So that hence, we call that the liquid line.
Right. The more you know.
Yeah. Now what you don't wanna do is let dirt and trash fall back here.
Yeah.
So you wanna keep these guys clean and don't take the caps out until you're ready to connect them. And bring some muscles with you. All right.
All right, so we got a little piece of PVC to help us here. What are we gonna do?
We're gonna put this against the back wall to help hold the unit out a bit, so he won't have to hold the total weight of the unit, and I can get my hands behind it and fashion the refrigeration lines. They sell mounts for this, so you can just kind of jack it up and hold it, but we're only mounting one unit, so it's no sense in buying, that jack for 1 minute split. So
it's because I'm not strong enough. That's
No.
what PVC is for.
yeah, all right. I didn't know that they had break-in periods.
So we're just prepping this to connect them up.
You don't want to
You
do
got any
this.
nitrogen in this one too?
No, actually, the pressure is equal on both sides.
Okay.
So once we release this
Once you let
guy,
that out.
it's kind of like a balloon.
Yep.
If you had 2 valves on one balloon, you let the air out of one side, you're not going to get it out of the other side too. Just one shot.
All right, it's back up here now.
Just want to obtain a low working room. I'm going to slide that in the unit. Pull that away from the wall a little bit. Yeah, I think my pole is a little too long. Let me cut a couple inches off this. Let me work through it. All right, that's what we want. All right, I like that.
All right.
That's what we want. So you won't have to hold that total weight. Now we got something to give me a little working room. So that's what we want.
Just needed the shorter pole. That's what my wife likes to.
All right. All right, that's what we want. Once again, guys, that PVC is just to give you a little room, and you won't have to buy an expensive mini split rack, but just have someone tend that other end, so in case you knock this thing off of the wall mounts, you won't make a paperweight.
And I guess only one of those fittings fits each one.
Yep. So the high side's only gonna go to the high side.
Take the
and the
guesswork
low
out of
side.
it for you.
Yep. So, of course, these guys, you don't start off with tools. You use your hands, because if you cross thread this fitting, you can cancel Christmas. All right, let me get my wrenches and we'll torque them up. Yeah, guys, you can tighten it until you feel it getting tight, and then you put your back up on it. But you don't want to over tighten it, a flare fitting, because it can cut straight through the thread.
So that back one we discovered is 17 millimeter.
Yep.
And we said we do not put any type of
No Teflon tape.
Teflon on these because they're flare fittings.
Yep. There's some mechanical connection. And that piece of PVC we got against that wall is helping. I mean, it'd be perfect if we had a mini split hoist, but once again, we're only putting in one unit, so no sense in generating more expense. Now unless one of you guys want to buy it.
Send it on over.
that tight and I'll be done with that liquid line.
So about 3 UGGs right there.
Yep. So now figure out what's on the other side. Set out the way. Pull that down.
So we have a 13 millimeter and a 17?
17 millimeter.
All right.
A little tight, so what I want to do is take my time and not rip this unit off the wall.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. Let me back up one time with my big boy. Leverage always helps. Okay. I was right at that point of don't over torque it because you can cut the fitting.
Yeah.
All right, now we can fashion our electrical down the wall. We can fashion the drain line down the wall and get our final prep before we take it to the wall. Yeah,
Here's our drain line.
And I actually want the drain line on the bottom of this.
All right. So, getting water dripping down on it.
Yeah, well, we don't want to make a
Make sure it's always going downhill.
Yeah, we don't want to make a trap. That's why we cut this big old hole to use it to our advantage. All right, that's what we want. All right, so now for the power. And we fished this through earlier. This is why we fished it, because now it's easy to work. Aaron did a sweet job with the installation. I got plenty of room to work behind it.
And if your whole wall is already insulated and drywalled, then that's when you go straight through out the back.
Yep.
And you have the big ugly run on the outside of your house. All right, so we just put some zip ties on this stuff around the refrigeration to keep it nice and wrapped up.
Yep, don't want it sweating. Worst thing you can do is have something sweating in your finished wall. So we put some tie wraps, and we got some more finishing tape that we'll put around the tie wraps. But this is not gonna leak as is, but it's your house. And you wanna keep it nice and dry. Of course, I'm sweating all over the...
It's a different kind of sweat.
Yeah, I'm sweating all over the sheetrock.
It's the hot kind of sweat.
Yeah.
This is why we desperately need this in here. So
Exactly.
all my other projects will be in the cool air.
Pick that up on the way out. All right, so what we want to do is now we want to make sure to keep the refrigeration lines off your drain line so they won't kink
Yep.
your drain line. So right now I'm gonna put it back where it was before I started. Of course, my power wire that I just moved earlier is there. We go. That's what we want. Everything's free.
Nice.
So we could try to wrap that again. I don't know if we can. I can put my Gorilla tape on it.
So put a piece of this tape down the seam. Now we're gonna try to wrap around it. Not a lot of room to work back there, but we'll try to get it all tidied up.
We're gonna try. But this is actually insulation tape. So it's really tacky and it's really effective, but it's god-awful aggravating because everything it touches, it wants to adhere to. Oh man, that worked out perfect. All right, let's see if we can wrap this around. Oh. Excellent. There you
All right, there she is in all her awkward hanging off the side glory. So all we had to do is tuck that stuff in underneath just a tiny bit, push down on the bottom, and that bracket snaps back in, and it is now mounted securely. So we have our refrigeration, drainage, electrical, all of this is gonna go out of our hole down here to our outdoor unit. Now moving on to the outside unit. So we wanna
20.5 center.
20.5 inches is the center points for the two places we're gonna mount it.
All right, so 20.5. So we'll get the one mounted and we'll pull 20.5 inches to the left, mount the second bracket.
So we're lining our bracket up a little bit to the left of the hole where everything is gonna come out. This is gonna be the right side of the unit. And we just made some marks in the mortar. So we're gonna try to get them in the mortar so we don't have to drill through brick.
And we'll level that once we make our first penetration.
These are the bad boys that come with it. So we have a 1/2-inch concrete bit to drill a hole in, and then these are gonna expand as we torque them into the wall. So we just make a mark on the bit so we know how deep we have to drill. Or you can use a little piece of electrical tape if you can find it, which we can't.
Which we can. There we go. I guess the thing about it, you want to stay square so you don't make your hole larger than it needs to be, because once you set your anchor, if you dance around while you're drilling straight, your hole is going to be a little wider than you want.
Yeah, good tip.
See, what I don't want to do is to lose that. I don't want to lose that. Because if I take my screw out, that falls back there with screwed. So I got to make sure that's what this band is for, you know? Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
So maybe we'll just seat them, then screw them in.
Yep. Then it can't do its job.
Yep. So we want to make sure that this is gonna be okay, and we'll start to set our level. I think we'll be fine because we got a little room for slop. Right.
Let's make sure it's level. Now we can mark the bottom hole. And drill again. And these are 8 millimeters. When you get them really tight, that thing will expand in there, and hold on, you will not get it out.
She's done now. All right.
So we marked it 20.5 inches from the center of that other one, because that's how far the feet are apart. All right, level this one up and then mark the hole for our bottom. We can't choose for it to be in that grout line, unfortunately, this time. So it's going to be going into brick, but that's fine.
That's what it's made for.
There we go.
Get it.
All right, now to put this thing up on it. So there's no instructions with these things, but it appears to me that they're meant to go on here and then you twist them and then they can slide up and down here, or I guess this way. And then you set the thing on it and you use the little mounting hardware they come with to attach.
I got you. It's a darn shame I'm a NORAD trained technician getting beat up by a rubber isolator.
Because there are other rubber isolators that come with this, but I think those are for setting on the on a pad, if you're putting this on a pad instead of brackets. But
yeah, I was thinking about mounting that on top of it.
All right, so when you set it up here and it looks like your brackets are too close together, don't freak out too badly. They just stretch out a little bit.
So you
They
can
will
manipulate
line
them.
up on here. Now, if somebody knows if this is not the right way to put these dampeners on, since there are no instructions, let me know in the comments below, but it seems like a legit way to do it because it comes with a nut and a washer and this little thing to be an isolator. So you got 4 of them to all 4 corners. All right, we fed these through our nice little hole. We have lots of extra room.
So we just want to fashion them around the wall without bending. Long radius turns. All right, that's that. And we'll do the same thing with the suction line, but right now we're gonna work on that liquid line. And before you do any cutting, make sure you get your access right so it can actually enter that properly.
Yes.
Because if you manipulate it wrong and you know, your cover's not going on right.
Right.
It's actually a little overkill for what we're doing.
It's a tiny little pipe here.
Yeah, it's a little overkill.
So that has a blade in there that just tightens down the pipe and then you spin it around it.
Yep.
And it will.
Don't put too much pressure on it because you can make your pipe out of round. So just make a little small.
Just a little tightening each twist around.
And that's it.
Get a nice clean cut.
Now, you got to have this flare nut for your other end. I can't tell you how many flare fittings I've made and forgot to put my flare nut on the end of the pipe. There's a flare.
Oh yeah.
But because we had to make the pipe a custom size, we had to take that out. So there's a little burr on the end of that where we cut. We want to clean that out.
Yep, I see that. It's got a little tool, two-in-one tool here.
Mm-hmm. So kind of dress that. Just ream it out and I try to make it square. Because when you make your flare, that's going to dictate your mechanical connection. All right, so that's pretty square. So now we can go back. Once again, don't forget your flare nut.
Don't forget the nut.
Where's my, oh, it's behind you.
It's like soldering wires with shrink wrap. I always forget to put the heat shrink on first.
Yep. Nice joint. Oh, no.
Make sure it's facing the right way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. That would not be good. Flaring block.
It's a three-handed job.
Mm-hmm. 1/4 inch.
I've never seen one of these in action before, so.
And if you actually do this, I'd encourage you guys to leave yourself a little extra pipe in case you mess it up. You make your flare too big, too small. You can go back and trim it.
Start again.
Yeah, but if you make your pipe too short or exact, well, you get the picture. The flare looks like it might be a little large right now, but if it is, we'll mess it up for demonstration purposes. I don't think it'll be messed up. Oh.
And I'll put links to all these tools. You can get them on Amazon in the description of the video.
Yeah, it looks
So
like
is there an art to when to stop, or you just go until it doesn't go anymore?
Yeah, it's too big. Okay, I made this flare too big, but I'm going to show you what happens when you make it too big.
And by making it too big, you just left too much of the pipe
It'll split.
sticking out.
See that?
Yep, I see that split right there.
Yep, so that's not a problem. I'll go the direct diameter. So we're going to discard this one. I'll show you guys.
Just cut it off and start again.
Yep, because if it's too large, what's going to happen is it won't fit inside the flare nut. See that? It won't fit.
Yeah,
It's almost there,
cover up
but
the threads,
yeah, it's almost there, but all right. Clean that back off, and please don't let me forget my flare nut. And you want to hold that down so you don't get your work inside your
tube there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be bad.
Mm-hmm. Please, thank you very much. Please and thank you.
So it's a little bit proud of that, but
Looks a little better. All right, here we go.
sometimes if you go and then you back it off a little bit and then keep going again,
A little
some
more
people say
forgiveness.
that's the way to do it.
All right. You don't see any splits this time.
Fingers crossed.
Shoes tied. Looks good.
There we go. That's a nice, pretty fitting.
All right.
The first flare, and now when we put the nut up against it, it should look right and not cover up all the threads like last time. All right, so that's what it should look like.
All right.
That one's on for now. And our big line. So same thing, just a bigger diameter this time.
It's gonna be a lot easier.
What size is this one?
I think this one is 5/8. And if you notice, I cut my insulation a little long so it'll cover up all the work.
Yeah.
You don't want naked pipe if you can help it.
More insulation, the better.
Yep. That's what I didn't want. There we go.
Right.
Pretty clean cut. All right. Once again, Clean those burrs. This one's a lot easier to work with. It's just not as malleable as that small pipe. And it feels really soft to me. So I'm not sure if the quality of our copper is going down. Of course, everything's the fault of the pandemic nowadays, but I just think the quality of the copper is not as good as it was 30 some odd years ago when I started doing this. And the flare nut, once again, is your friend.
Okay.
Just trying to make sure my flaring block is square.
Yep. And again, not too much pipe sticking out, just enough to flare it.
Too large, your flare nut will not fit over the flare fitting or the flare.
Too small and it'll leak.
Yeah. Larger fittings are easier, a little more forgiving.
It's more material, less likely to split.
Feels like we bottomed there.
Like another nice flare. Just tighten those two nuts up next.
Yep. Just put a little backup on this because these fittings are super small when you compare it to a standard refrigeration fitting. So I always back up my service valves.
Twist the whole thing off.
Yeah. I don't want to buy his unit.
Come on, it's so nice.
Got kids in college. All right.
It's connected. All right, we're gonna switch gears and do some electrical. I have a 60 amp disconnect here. You could use a 30 amp. They didn't have one in stock, so we're going with the big one.
Look at the connections they have. I mean, no, man.
Yeah, don't use those. But we're gonna put the electrical in now, and if you remember from the inside, it has 1, 2, 3 and a ground, so that's where the wire that leads up to that is going to go to, and line 1 and line 2 is for our 220. You're going to run 2 lines to it and a ground over here. Now if your unit is 110, you're going to have a line and a neutral and a ground, so that's the only difference. So we got some of this stuff. What'd you call this stuff?
Seal tight.
Seal tight.
So we'll put seal tight on because these, you don't want to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, these connections they're not up to my standard. So we're gonna use some seal tight conduit, and we're gonna slide the power wire for the indoor unit in this. Yeah. It's a heck of a lot safer than what they ship with the unit. That's in there. So this is going to be rain tight now. But what I don't like about the unit is you can't put the conduit on the unit. You have to put it on this removable panel. That's, I don't like that, but we're going to clean it up and make it look good. That's what we're going to do. Let me put that wire.
Yeah, stick that wire through there.
Yeah, I had my fish tape.
Pull. Oh, it's inside. All right, so we got the fish wire through this from the inside. So we're just gonna tape this wire on and pull it back through. All right, so we got some nylon here. What are we gonna do with this?
Just gonna use this nylon webbing, and we're gonna secure the work that we have in the wall. Gonna secure it to a stud with this stuff. It's inexpensive, and it does the job without fighting with the pipes and all that good stuff. So I like to use this. It's typically used to hang duct, but it works wonders for securing pipes to walls and to the studs. So here we go.
All right, so we're just wrapping the strap around these guys.
And I double back just for a little extra strength. Okay. Man, it's fighting me.
Try to get it tight down there in the corner, innit?
Mm-hmm. There we go. That's what I need. All right. Let me see a couple staples. Of course, we're going to secure that all the way up. So I can tighten that up. Can I go in? Yeah, I can go in a little.
All right, we got 4 straps on there. It's nice and tight. So after marking the 3 holes for the box, I'm gonna go ahead and drill some holes and put our anchors in and attach the box. All right, 3 holes, 3 anchors. All right, our box is attached, nice and close to the unit. Now I'm just gonna put a little bit of 12-2 through here and make our connections in here. So I will have on the right terminals, I'll have it feed in and then feed back out through the left, knock out this hole and come right over here. I just cut plenty of extra wire so it sticks out both ends. And now I'm just going to stick this wire through here and attach our little pipe here. So we should have one watertight connection. Got our wires stripped in here. We loosen these up. So this is labeled line. So this would be your neutral normally if you're doing 110, but we're doing 220. So both of these are gonna be lines. Those are the ones coming in, and here is your grounding block to attach your ground to. Okay, this is all wired up now. So essentially the 2 lines from the house are gonna come in here because these 2 are gonna be connected together and these 2 are gonna be connected together when you stick this blade in here. So you can see that this side's gonna connect those 2 wires, this side's gonna connect these 2 wires. So I could have one here and one here and have the 2 coming from the house here, but either way, same thing. We've got it running right over here, and that's how this side looks when it's all wired up. So I'm gonna reattach this box. Okay.
All right, so we got this specialty adapter that's typically used on mini splits, some mini splits. Mitsubishi doesn't require one, but this particular Pioneer unit does. So here's our adapter that we had to go home and retrieve last night because I didn't realize it. I needed it. About to do a little pressure testing, so can't put pressure in it without this adapter. So here we go.
So what are all these colored hoses and stuff for us?
All right, the colored hoses, these guys, this is my suction, which is blue. And this is my discharge, which is red. I've got a little pressure in my hose, as you can see. Had a little Freon in it. And this guy here is your charging hose. So we'll use this for pulling a vacuum or adding refrigerant. And you only have one service valve on this mini split, so it goes right here.
A 3rd adapter?
All right, so today we're gonna put 100 psi of nitrogen in this system so we can test these fittings here. These are the fittings that I've made with the swaging flaring tool. So we're gonna test and make sure that these guys are pressure tested and not leaking. So when we release the refrigerant through the service valves, everything's okay. So
now is this like adding pressure to the system instead
Well,
of creating a vacuum? Like,
what we're doing is we want to make sure that when we pull a vacuum and we shut the gauges off, it won't be sucking in any moisture. So when we pressure test it, we can ensure that when we pull a vacuum, we're putting a vacuum on the system and not introducing moisture to the system. So we want it to be dry. So that's why we pressure test it, to make sure it's not going to leak when we start the vacuum. Good question. All right, so we're gonna put pressure here. So that's about 150. And on the low side suction,
step me through what you're doing here with these.
so now on the low side we're introducing, well, we got about 160 psi on the system now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to spray this with soap and make sure that these guys don't leak. In fact, what I could do is, now that that's where we want it, I could take this fitting off. Now we got 150 psi on that side of the system. And if we had a leak, you'd see noticeable bubbles because we have 150 pounds of pressure and there are no leaks.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, so we'd see bubbles if we had a leak, so we're good to go. So I'm gonna release this nitrogen and then we'll start our vacuum.
So is there any pressure still in here?
Oh yeah, it's 150 psi.
No, just not.
Oh, not here. It's 150 psi on this.
Yeah.
The reason I took that off is if we had a leak caused by this gauge here, and I could hear it here coming from my gauge, which I disconnected, and it would be a distraction as to what's going on this side of the fitting. So I take my gauge off, so if we heard something, it'd be coming from here and not my gauges.
Okay.
All right, just something I did that I didn't turn you guys on to, but I always do that. All right, so now we can let this pressure out. I can shut my tank off and I can let that pressure back out here. So if you notice, when I hook my pressure up here, this is going to go back up to 150. Well, I let some out, so that pressure's still in the system. So now if I open this gauge, it's going to come out of this tube. When I open this guy, I'm getting back in time.
Yeah, so talking about all the tools we use, so this nitrogen tank, we used it to pressure test it, but we're also going to use the vacuum pump to essentially pressure test it too, right?
Well, to pull a vacuum, and whenever we know that water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level. So essentially what we're going to do is, when we pull a vacuum, we drop the boiling pressure of moisture. So we're going to take this guy down to 29 inches of mercury, and that essentially lowers the boiling point, and it's going to extract any moisture that's in the system.
Okay.
So it's kind of neat, reducing the pressure so you reduce the boiling point and hence taking the moisture out of the system.
So is the nitrogen an extra step that we could avoid and just use the vacuum pump, or do you really need to?
You could.
Okay.
But if you have a leak, you won't know until you introduce the refrigerant to your system.
Gotcha.
And if you don't pressure test it and you open those valves after you pull a vacuum, your Freon comes through your bad joints. So always pressure test it. It can save you some cash.
Okay, so the vacuum would not detect those same leaks?
No.
Okay.
Well, it will, but not until you release your refrigerant. Now, you could put a micron gauge on, and that would tell you if it's not holding a vacuum. But essentially, you want to pressure test before you pull your vacuum.
Okay, because I always thought, the way when I read the instructions on this thing, I always thought that the vacuum that you put a vacuum on it and you let it sit there for 15 minutes, and if the pressure didn't change, then you knew you didn't have a leak.
If the pressure rose, you could do that, but you save yourself that step by pressure testing.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right. You wouldn't pull a vacuum if you had a leak. Well, you would, but you wouldn't know until you close your gauge, let it sit 15 minutes, and then the pressure rises.
Right.
But we essentially eliminated that step when we pressure tested.
Okay.
So
if you're doing it by yourself and you just want to buy a cheap vacuum pump, you could just do that and not have to spend the money on a nitrogen tank. And
yeah. But as a professional, we use nitrogen to save that step.
Yep.
You know, because as a homeowner, if you guys hired us, we didn't pressure test it, pull a vacuum, open these, and introduce a refrigerant to your system. We just essentially blew your charge.
Right.
So we try not to do that.
Gotcha.
All right, let's get some power. So now we're going to pull a vacuum, and this guy's going to draw down to 29 inches of mercury. Because it's a minute split, we're going to put it for 15 minutes. There's no sense in pulling it for 30 minutes on such a small system. So we'll crank it up, and you guys will see that gauge go negative.
So, yellow's just hooked into there.
Mm-hmm. That's your moisture coming out of your system. That'll go clear in a couple minutes, indicating that the moisture is coming out of the system.
Mm-hmm.
So we start. Pop all the way up 29 over there. Yeah, it is.
So this thing is just automatically set to stay at that same.
Yes, it's a 5.
Pressure.
I think this is a 5 CFM. Yeah, that's a 5 CFM vacuum pump.
Right.
So it can literally pull a vacuum at 5 cubic feet per minute. Pretty stout for a mini split.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're getting there. Essentially, this thing will be dry in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But the owner's manual says 15. We'll pull it for 15. If I had a micron gauge, it'd be less than that.
All right, guys, after talking a little bit offline with Mike, a few more things made sense. So maybe it made sense to you the first time that he said it, but it didn't click for me. So let me tell you what I learned from our discussion. So this vacuum that is still running, we're gonna leave it running for 15 full minutes, and you saw the water vapor coming out of that. He said it the first time, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together until seeing it, is that it is lowering the boiling point, like he said, so the water is boiling and the vapor is coming out. So when you leave a vacuum on for 15 minutes, it is actually continually creating the vacuum. And what I thought in my head was that you create the vacuum and you close it off for 15 minutes and you just leave it in a vacuumed state to see if it leaked. And he pointed out that that is one way that you can do it with a negative pressure test. And the problem with that is if you do have a leak, air and also the moisture in the air are slowly leaking into your system, so you're going to get actually more water in your system. And what we did with the nitrogen was a positive pressure test by forcing pressure into the system. So if there was a leak, nitrogen is leaking out of your system and nothing is getting into the system. So that's why that is a better leak test. While you can do the vacuum test with a negative test, the positive test is better. So hopefully that made sense to you, because I finally got it.
All right. Now, what Aaron mentioned earlier was the standing vacuum test. So I have this valve closed off, so the only thing we're reading now is system pressure. So if I cut my pump off, that 29 inches of mercury will stand and not rise. But the best practice is to do a positive pressure test to ensure that you don't have a leak before you start your vacuum. So that's going to stand, and we won't have to hold that for 15 minutes like they said, because we know we don't have a leak now. So now we can release the refrigerant into the system.
Right.
All right. So we're gonna have a couple service valves here. This is your high side. This is your low side. And as we open these valves, the pressure that's in the system now is going to go to the side of the system that we just pulled the vacuum on. As soon as I find the right wrench. So now if you look at your gauge, you'll see when I introduce the system, the refrigerant to the system. So hit that gauge. And there we have it. So now the Freon's going into the system. That was your discharge service valve. Now this is your suction service valve. So now the Freon has a free path to flow from the discharge to your suction. We are ready to rock and roll.
Put the little protective caps back on.
Yeah, and I took those back up because these guys have brass seats on them, and if the Teflon seats inside this service valve leaks, it'll get caught by your service caps. So I make sure these guys are tight. All right, so now they're tight. Now all that's left to do is to get some power to this bad boy.
So we leave that other one hooked on?
No, well, I'll leave it on when we start it, and then I'll take it off.
So now we're going to finish up the electrical to the other side of this unit since we haven't done that yet. I have this little 1/2-inch PVC to male adapter and a little ring that I'm going to put on this little knockout here so they can feed that in, and then I'm just going to run PVC down the side of the house around the corner, and we're going to drill a big old hole in the brick here to have it go under my crawl space to where it connects to the service panel. So just starting with this little connection, and that, my friend, is a serious drill.
Call him John Henry.
John Henry.
Take a look at it. You're hitting the block.
Through the brick, through a little bit of block.
Well, we got what we want. We want a nice round hole so you can finish to that. So we got what we need.
That's good enough to get our cable in here.
Okay. Anytime you wire your disconnects, you have to take your white wire, put black electrical tape on it to designate that as line voltage. Because white is designated as a neutral wire, but because this jacket doesn't have a black or colored wire in it, put electrical tape on it so you know if somebody comes behind you, this is not a neutral, it's a hot wire.
Yep. All right, so right now we're just making a temporary connection to get this tested before Mike has to leave, and then I'm going to take it back apart and put this through our PVC to run it around here. So right now we're just going through like this, and I'm gonna go hook it up on the inside. All right, we're all connected. We turned the circuit on, and then we went ahead and plugged in the disconnect.
We've got 240 volts going to the disconnect, and the unit is ready, so all we gotta do is enable it.
Let's power it on. I can turn it off. Power. 73. Oh. 73. I hear it running. We have our first cool breeze of AC in the new shop. Today I also installed that on the wall. Shop dog is chilling over there. And as you can see, I got a lot of work to do in here. But I will be doing it in the cool breeze of my Pioneer mini split. All right, so we're happy with everything over here?
Yeah, our pressures are rising. These mini splits are really smart. Typically on the day, like today, we'll be around 150 PSI. But these guys are gonna modulate that I think this one has an electronic expansion valve in it. So I'm expecting to see between 125 to 150 suction, but I'm happy with that right now because we just cranked it up. She's gonna pick up, and this fan's gonna modulate. She's picking up a lot of heat.
Yeah, there's a really nice cool breeze in the garage already. I'm super excited.
Let's hit it with the infrared. Now we're gonna take this out, but unfortunately, with the adapter, it does not have a Schrader check valve. So I'm gonna have to get smart. We're running about 110 PSI right now, so that's not too high on R410A. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push in on that Schrader valve while I'm taking my threads off, and hopefully I won't lose too much pressure.
And yank it real fast.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're looking good.
So the other option, if you don't want to be checking the pressure while you do this, is to remove that first and then open those valves?
Correct. Correct. But actually you have more pressure because today it's 90 degrees out, so that pressure will be about 250 PSI. If you look at R410A at 90 degrees, that pressure is 250. So it's best to cut it on before you take the gauges off because we just took it off at about 110 PSI. And standing R410A at 90 degrees is 250 PSI. So turn the unit on.
Okay, gotcha. All right, we got no installation or anything yet, but never used one of these. Let's see, aim it there. 63.5.
What's this room temp? Hit a random spot in the
Room temp is 80 degrees out here today.
That's getting down.
Yeah. Hey, this thing's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, it's getting down, man.
Is that what we want to see?
Yeah.
58.
Yeah. So 58 and 75, that's some serious delta T or air changes.
Yeah.
You subtract the room temp from the discharge temp, and that's really running efficiently. So I'm happy with that. And it is not 73 in here.
Now that's what the thermostat set at. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, that's your set point. Okay.
cool to set. Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
Yep. All right, Mike. Well, it has been a pleasure. I think we finally got this thing knocked out. Just a little more cleanup work to do,
Yeah.
but I think we're there. So thank you so much for your help. And
Glad we can help you guys out.
yeah, if Mike can help you guys out, again, his information will be in the description of this video. So feel free to reach out, and we will see you guys next week.
All right. 55.
Nice.
I like it.
Very nice. Oh, yeah.